Hello world, what's good? I'm Lonnie Appleton. I'm a healthy family advocate. I advocate for the healthy restoration of our families. And right now I'm here to read the Bible. I'm reading the Bible, New International Version, NIV. From this cover to this cover, my knowledge attained through my years of occupying pulpits and listening to gospel music. But yeah, no prior knowledge, no research, just interpreting this according to the life that I'm living today and how I can use this as a tool to grow in relationship with God, and amplify my blessings, amplify my service, but also amplify my blessings because this is a fair partnership deal. Three, Moses is about to die. He was told to go up into the mountain and be gathered to his people, and the people are potentially about to go into the promised land. So I'm really excited to experience that. This morning or this afternoon, when I opened my Bible and I had to open all these pages, like I've never opened my Bible to read it and have all these pages that I've actively read. Like I've poked around, I've done read the Bible in a year thing and all those different things, but I've never actually just sat down and read the Bible, especially the Old Testament, because once you hit Exodus, it's just like downhill till Deuteronomy, and I only know that because I read up until Deuteronomy. I was like, okay, now you get interesting again, but Leviticus, Numbers, Leviticus, Exodus, them chapters were not giving. So it was something to power through those. I post all of my lives on YouTube, Lonnie Appleton Live. If you ever want to catch any of Bible study that you may have missed, I go live Monday through Saturday when time permits, 12 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. It is presently 12:17, so 17 minutes ago ish. I'm on at noon. So check your little icon to see if I'm up, and let's enjoy the Bible together. I'm not here to argue validity. I'm not here to argue why I'm reading it. I was told to read it, and so I'm reading it. And my life has been many times blessed over since I've been doing it. So I'm going to keep reading it, one, out of obedience. And we all know how God views obedience. But also I'm going to read it because I set a goal for myself. Boys, please keep it down. Michael and Caden, please keep it down. I made a promise to myself to do it, so that is another reason why I am showing up for myself. And 3, this is actually interesting. And 4, the blessings, the energetic vibration that my frequency is in to receive and to commune with God. It's beautiful. Moses blesses the tribes. This is chapter 33. This is the blessing that Moses, the man of God, pronounced on the Israelites before his death. He said, "The Lord came from Sinai and dawned over them from Seir. He shone forth with Mount Paran. He came with myriads of holy ones from the south, from his mountain slopes. Surely it is you who love the people. All the holy ones are in your hand. At your feet they all bow down, and from you receive instruction, the law that Moses gave us, the possession of the assembly of Jacob. He was king over Jeshurun when the leaders of the people assembled." Hey, Afro, I'm about to go discipline some kids real quick. Jeshurun, when the leaders of the people assembled, along with the tribes of Israel. Let Reuben live and not die, not his people be few. And this he said about Judah. Hear, Lord, the cry of Judah. Bring him to his people. With his own hands he defends his cause. Oh, be his help against his foes. About Levi he said, your Thummim and Urim belong to your faithful servant. You tested him at Mesa. You contended with him at the waters of Meribah. He said of his father and mother, I have no regard for them. He did not recognize his brothers or acknowledge his own children. But he watched over your word and guarded your covenant. He teaches your precepts to Jacob and your law to Israel. He offers incense before you and whole burnt offerings on your altar. Bless all his skills, Lord, and be pleased with the work of his hands. Strike down those who rise against him, his foes, till they rise no more. About Benjamin he said, let the beloved of the Lord rest secure in him, for he shields him all day long, and the one the Lord loves rests between his shoulders. About Joseph he said, may the Lord bless his land with the precious dew from heaven above, and with the deep waters that lie below. With the best the sun brings forth and the finest the moon can yield, with the choicest gifts of the ancient mountains and the fruitfulness of the everlasting hills, with the best gifts of the earth and its fullness, in the favor of him who dwelt in the burning bush. Let all these rest on the head of Joseph, on the brow of the prince among his brothers. In majesty he is like a firstborn bull. His horns are the horns of a wild ox. With them he will gore the nations, even those at the end of the earth. Such are the 10,000s of Ephraim. Such are the thousands of Manasseh. About Zebulun he said, rejoice, Zebulun, in your going out, and you, Issachar, in your tents. They will summon people to the mountain, and there offer the sacrifices of the righteous. They will feast on the abundance of the seas, on the treasures hidden in the sand. About Gad he said, blessed is he who enlarges Gad's domain. Gad lives there like a lion, tearing at arm or head. He chose the best land for himself. The leader's portion was kept for him. When the heads of the people assembled, he carried out the Lord's righteous will and his judgment concerning Israel. About Dan he said, Dan is a lion's cub, springing out of Bashan. About Naphtali he said, Naphtali is abounding with the favor of the Lord, and is full of his blessings. He will inherit southward to the lake. About Asher he said, most blessed of the son is Asher. Let him be favored by his brothers, and let him bathe his feet in oil. The bolts of your gates will be iron and bronze, and your strength will equal your days. There is no one like the God of Jeshurun, who rides across the heavens to help you, and on the clouds in his majesty. The eternal God is your refuge, and underneath are the everlasting arms. He will drive out your enemies before you, saying, destroy them. So Israel will live in safety. Jacob will dwell secure in a land of grain and new wine, where the heavens drop dew. Blessed are you, Israel. Who is like you, a people saved by the Lord? He is your shield and helper and your glorious sword. Your enemies will cower before you, and you will tread on their heights. Chapter 34, the death of Moses. Then Moses climbed Mount Nobu from the plains of Moab to the top of Pisgah across from Jericho. There the Lord showed him the whole land, from Gilead to Dan, all of Naphtali, the territory of Ephraim and Manasseh, all of the land of Judah, as far as the Mediterranean Sea, the Negev and the whole region from the valley of Jericho, the city of palms, as far as Zorah. Then the Lord said to him, this is the land I promised on oath to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, when I said, I will give it to your descendants. I have let you see it with your eyes, but you will not cross over into it. And Moses, the servant of the Lord, died there in Moab, as the Lord had said. He buried him in Moab, in the valley opposite Beth Peor, but to this day no one knows where his grave is. Moses was 120 years old when he died, yet his eyes were not weak nor his strength gone. The Israelites grieved for Moses in the plain of Moab 30 days until the time of weeping and mourning was over. Now Joshua son of Nun was filled with the Spirit, of wisdom, because Moses had laid his hands on him. So the Israelites listened to him and did what the Lord had commanded Moses. Since then, no prophet has risen in Israel like Moses, whom the Lord knew face to face, who did all those signs and wonders the Lord sent him to do in Egypt, to Pharaoh and to all his officials and to his whole land. For no one has ever shown the mighty power or performed the awesome deeds that Moses did in the sight of all Israel. Y'all, we just finished Deuteronomy. I don't know about y'all, but I never read this much of the Bible from the front page to... I'm 180 pages into the Bible, y'all. I started January 1st, and here we are, March whatever. And so while I'm reading this, I'm just really sitting in the energy of the fact that I set a goal that necessarily isn't something... I didn't even want to do this. I was told to do this. This is why I'm doing this. But I set a goal. And I think about all the things that I'm going to start working out, or I'm going to do, start eating right, I'm going to do all these things. But here I am in March, and something that I would have quit 1,000 times already, I'm still showing up for myself. So I'm really sitting in that energy, not only that we just finished Deuteronomy together, but the fact that I'm still showing up for myself, that I made a promise to God that I would do something, and I break my promise to myself in the past, but I'm not breaking this promise to God, which is me. So I'm showing myself that I can show up for myself to the highest degree, because I'm proving that right now. So there's a lot going on in the completion of Deuteronomy. And now we're going to start Joshua. Let's go. Joshua installed as leader. Chapter 1. After the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord said to Joshua, son of Nun, Moses' aide, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now then, you and all these people get ready to cross the Jordan River into the land I am about to give to them. To the Israelites, I will give you every place where you set your foot, as I promised Moses. Your territory will extend from the desert of Lebanon and from the great river, the Euphrates, all the Hittite country to the Mediterranean Sea in the west. No one will be able to stand against you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Be strong and courageous, because you will lead these people to inherit the land I swore to their ancestors to give them. Be strong and very courageous. Be careful to obey all the laws my servant Moses gave you. Do not turn from it to the right or to the left, that you may be successful wherever you go. Keep this book of the law always in your lips. Meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do everything written in it. Then you will be prosperous and successful. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. So Joshua ordered the officers of the people, go through the camp and tell the people, get your provisions ready. 3 days from now, you will cross the Jordan here to go in and take possession of the land the Lord your God is giving you for your own. Y'all, I feel like I've been waiting to enter into the promised land. Like, I have been waiting since the mention of the promised land for these people to enter into the promised land, and I have never experienced it. Like, I probably have heard sermons about them going into the promised land. I don't recall, because I was like, do they ever actually get into the promised land? And somebody in Bible study was like, yeah, so I know, but I feel like I've been waiting for 80 years to get up into the promised land. So I'm very excited for this moment, y'all. But to the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh, Joshua said, remember the command that Moses, the servant of the Lord, gave you after he said, the Lord your God will give you rest by giving you this land. Your wives, your children, and your livestock may stay in the land that Moses gave you east of the Jordan. But all your fighting men ready for battle must cross over ahead of your fellow Israelites. You are to help them until the Lord gives them rest, as he has done for you. And until they who have taken possession of the land the Lord your God is giving them. After that, you may go back and occupy your own land, which Moses, the servant of the Lord, gave you east of the Jordan toward the sunrise. Then they answered Joshua, "Whatever you have commanded us, we will do, and wherever you send us, we will go. Just as we fully obeyed Moses, so we will obey you. Only may the Lord your God be with you as he was with Moses. Whoever rebels against your word and does not obey it, whatever you may command them, will be put to death. Only be strong and courageous." Rahab and the spies. Rahab, I remember Rahab. Chapter 2. Then Joshua son of Nun secretly sent 2 spies from Shittim. "Go look over the land," he said, "especially Jericho." So they went and entered the house of a prostitute named Rahab and stayed there. The king of Jericho was told, "Look, some of the Israelites have come here tonight to spy out the land." So the king of Jericho sent this message to Rahab: "Bring out the men who came to you and entered your house, because they have come to spy out the whole land." But the woman had taken the 2 men and hidden them. She said, "Yes, the men came to me, but I did not know where they had come from. At dusk, when it was time to close the city gate, they left. I don't know which way they went. Go after them quickly. You may catch up with them." But she had taken them up to the roof and hidden them under the stalks of flax she had laid out on the roof. So the men set out in pursuit of the spies on the road that leads to the fords of the Jordan. And as soon as the pursuers were gone out, the gate was shut. Before the spies lay down for the night, she went up on the roof and said to them, "I know that the Lord has given you this land, and that a great fear of you has fallen on us, so that all who live in the country are melting in fear because of you." And it's funny, my sons are listening to this story. They found the Bible on audio for kids, so they're listening to this actual story on their Kindles. It's funny. "We have heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea for you when you came out of Egypt, and what you did to Sihon and Og, the 2 kings of the Amorites east of the Jordan, whom you completely destroyed. When we heard of it, our hearts melted in fear, and everyone's courage failed because of you. For the Lord your God is God in heaven above and on the earth below. Now then, please swear to me by the Lord that you will show kindness to my family, because I have shown kindness to you. Give me a sure sign that you will spare the lives of my father and mother, my brother and sisters, and all who belong to them, and that you will save us from death." See, just because she was a prostitute, she sounds like she's a decent human being. Just because someone does what they got to do, use what they got to get what they want, doesn't mean they're a bad person. We demonize the entire person for one life choice. Sounds like sis was, on the up and up. "Our lives for your lives," the men assured her. Rahab, that's her name. "Our lives for your lives," the men assured her. "If you don't tell what we are doing, we will treat you kindly and faithfully when the Lord gives us the land." So she let them down by a rope through the window, for the house she lived in was part of the city wall. She said to them, "Go to the hills so the pursuers will not find you. Hide yourself there 3 days until they return, and then go on your way." Now the men had said to her, "This oath you made us swear will not be binding on us unless when we enter the land you have tied this scarlet cord on the window through which you let us down, and unless you have brought your father and mother and your brother and all your family into your house. If any of them go outside your house into the street, their blood will be on their own heads." Y'all better listen. We will not be responsible. As for those who are in the house with you, their blood will be on our head if a hand is laid on them. But if you tell what we are doing, we will be released from the oath you made us swear." "Agreed," she replied. "Let it be as you say." So she sent them away, and they disappeared, and she tied the scarlet cord on the window shoe without delay. Scarlet cord, yo, mom, dad, brothers and sisters, let's go. When they left, they went into the hills and stayed there 3 days until the pursuers had searched all along the road and returned without finding them. Then the 2 men started back. They went down out of the hill, forded the river, and came to Joshua son of Nun and told him everything that had happened to them. They said to Joshua, "The Lord has surely given the whole land into our hands. All the people are melting in fear because of us." Crossing the Jordan, chapter 3. Early in the morning, Joshua and all the Israelites set out from Shittim and went to the Jordan. There they camped before crossing over. After 3 days, the officers went throughout the camp, giving orders to the people. "When you see the ark of the covenant of the Lord come, the Lord your God, and the Levitical priests carrying it, you are to move out from your positions and follow it. Then you will know which way to go, since you have never been this way before. But keep a distance of about 2,000 cubits between you and the ark. Do not go near it." Joshua told the people, "Consecrate yourself, for tomorrow the Lord will do amazing things among you." Joshua said to the priests, "Take up the ark of the covenant and pass on ahead of the people." So they took it up and went ahead of them. And the Lord said to Joshua, "Today I will begin to exalt you in the eyes of all Israel, so they may know that I am with you as I was with Moses. Tell the priests who carry the ark of the covenant, when you reach the edge of the Jordan's water, go and stand in the river." Joshua said to the Israelites, "Come here and listen to the words of the Lord your God. This is how you will know that the living God is among you, and that he will certainly drive out before you the Canaanites, Hittites, Hivites, Perizzites, Girgashites, Amorites, and Jebusites. See, the ark of the covenant of the Lord of all the earth will go into the Jordan ahead of you. Now then, choose 12 men from the tribes of Israel, one from each tribe, and as soon as the priests who carry the ark of the Lord of all the earth, set foot in the Jordan, its waters flowing downstream will be cut off and stand up in a heap." So when the people broke camp to cross the Jordan, the priests carrying the ark of the covenant went ahead of them. Now the Jordan is a flood stage is at flood stage all during harvest. Yet as soon as the priests who carried the ark reached the Jordan and their feet touched the water's edge, the water from upstream stopped flowing. It piled up in a heap a great distance away, at a town called Adam in the vicinity of Zarethan, while the water flowing down to the sea of the Arabah, that is the Dead Sea, was completely cut off. So the people crossed over opposite Jericho. The priests who carried the ark of the covenant of the Lord stepped in the middle of the Jordan and stood on dry ground, while all Israel passed by until the whole nation had completed the crossing on dry ground. Chapter 4. This is getting good, y'all. When the whole nation had finished crossing the Jordan, the Lord said to Joshua, "Choose 12 men from among the people, one from each tribe, and tell them to take up 12 stones from the middle of the Jordan, from right where the priests are standing, and carrying them over with you, and put them down at the place where you stay tonight." So Joshua called together the 12 men he had appointed from the Israelites, one from each tribe, and said to them, "Go over before the ark of the Lord your God into the middle of the Jordan. Each of you is to take up a stone on his shoulder, according to the number of the tribe of the Israelites, to serve as a sign among you. In the future, when your children ask you, 'What do those stones mean?' tell them that the flow of the Jordan was cut off before the ark of the covenant of the Lord. When it crossed the Jordan, the waters of the Jordan were cut off. These stones are to be a memorial to the people of Israel forever." So the Israelites did as Joshua commanded them. They took 12 stones from the middle of the Jordan, according to the number of the tribes of the Israelites, as the Lord had told Joshua. And they carried them over with them to their camp, where they put them down. Joshua set up the 12 stones that had been in the middle of the Jordan at the spot where the priests who carried the ark of the covenant had stood, and they all are there to this day. They are there to this day. Now the priests who carried the ark remained standing in the middle of the Jordan until everything the Lord had commanded Joshua was done by the people, just as Moses had directed Joshua. The people hurried over, and as soon as all of them had crossed the ark of the Lord, and the priests came to the other side while the people watched, the men of Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh crossed over, ready for battle, in front of the Israelites as Moses had directed them. about 40,000 armed for battle crossed over before the Lord to the plains of Jericho for the war. Ooh, it's about to go down, y'all. The day the Lord exalted Joshua in the sight of all Israel, and they stood in awe of him all the day of his life, just as they had stood in awe of Moses. Then the Lord said to Joshua, command the priests carrying the ark of the covenant law to come up out of the Jordan. So Joshua commanded the priests, come up out of the Jordan. And the priests came up out of the river carrying the ark of the covenant of the Lord. No sooner had they set their foot on dry ground than the water of the Jordan returned to their place and ran at flood stage as before. On the 10th day of the first month, the people went up from the Jordan and camped at Gilgal on the eastern border of Jericho. And Joshua set up at Gilgal the 12 stones that had taken out of the Jordan. He said to the Israelites, in the future, when your descendants ask their parents, what do those stones mean? Tell them Israel crossed the Jordan on dry ground, for the Lord your God dried up the Jordan before you until you had crossed over it. The Lord your God did to the Jordan what he had done to the Red Sea. When he dried it up before us until he had crossed over, he did till we had crossed over. He did this so that all the people of the earth might know that the hand of the Lord is powerful, and so that you might always fear the Lord your God. I didn't know he did it twice. See, they don't tell that second story the way that they tell the Red Sea story. Now, when all the Amorite kings west of the Jordan and all the Canaanite kings along the coast heard how the Lord had dried up the Jordan before the Israelites until they had crossed over, their hearts melted in fear, and they no longer had the courage to face the Israelites. I bet. And see, what I'm thinking is, this is 2 generations later, so all the people that presently exist heard the story of the Red Sea. So now they're actually experiencing it again with the Jordan. So they heard and now they saw. Circumcision and Passover at Gilgal. At that day the Lord said to Joshua, make flint knives and circumcise the Israelites again. So Joshua made flint knives and circumcised the Israelites at Gadeth Hareloth. Now this is why he did so. All those who came out of Egypt, all the men of military age, died in the wilderness on the way after leaving Egypt. All the people that came out had been circumcised, but all the people born in the wilderness during the journey from Egypt had not. The Israelites had moved about in the wilderness 40 years until all the men who were of military age when they left Egypt had died, since they had not obeyed the Lord. For the Lord had sworn to them that they would not see the land he had solemnly promised their ancestors to give us, a land flowing with milk and honey. So he raised up their sons in their place, and these were the ones Joshua circumcised. They were still uncircumcised because they had not been circumcised on the way. And after the whole nation had been circumcised, they remained where they were in camp until they were healed. I bet. Then the Lord said to Joshua, today I have rolled away the reproach of Egypt from you. So the place has been called Gilgal to this day. On the evening of the 40th day of the month, while camping at Gilgal on the plains of Jericho, the Israelites celebrated the Passover. The day after the Passover, the very day, they ate some of the produce of the land, unleavened bread and roasted grain. The manna stopped the day after they ate this food from the land. There was no longer any manna for the Israelites, but that year they ate the produce of Canaan. That's interesting. So there's a point when you are coming into God's promise that the provision stops. So if you are moving into your divinity, you are being provided for. You are being maintained because you are moving within God's command for your life and you are being obedient. So God is providing for you. So things are happening within your life that you're like, there's no way that these things should be happening, but they're happening because you're being provided for because of your obedience. But it appears right before you come into your promise, the provision stops. There's like a crossover. That's what I picked up. The fall of Jericho. Now when Joshua was near Jericho, he looked up and saw a man standing in front of him with a drawn sword in his hand. Excuse me. Joshua went up to him and asked, "Are you for us or are you for our enemies? Is you with us or no? Are you for us or are you for our enemies?" "Neither," he replied, "but as commander of the army of the Lord I have now come." Then Joshua fell face down to the ground in reverence and asked him, "What message does my Lord have for his servant?" The commander of the Lord's army replied, "Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy." And Joshua did so. Chapter 6. Now the gates of Jericho were securely barred because of the Israelites. No one went out or no one came in. Then the Lord said to Joshua, "See, I have delivered Jericho into your hands, along with its kings and its fighting men. March around the city once with all the armed men. Do this for 6 days. Have 7 priests carry trumpets of ram's horns in front of the ark. On the 7th day, march around the city 7 times with the priests blowing the trumpets. When you hear them sound a long blast on the trumpets, have the whole army give a loud shout. Then the wall of the city will collapse and the army will go up, everyone straight in." So Joshua son of Nun called the priests and said to them, "Take up the ark of the covenant of the Lord and have 7 priests carrying trumpets in front of it." And he ordered the army, "Advance! March around the city with an armed guard going ahead of the ark of the Lord." When Joshua had spoken to the people, the 7 priests carrying the 7 trumpets before the Lord went forward, blowing their trumpets, and the ark of the Lord's covenant followed them. The armed guard marched ahead of the priests who blew the trumpets, and the rear guard followed the ark. All this time the trumpets were sounding. But Joshua had commanded the army, "Do not give a war cry. Do not raise your voices. Do not say a word until the day I tell you to shout. Then shout." So he had the ark of the Lord carried around the city, circled at once. Then the army returned to camp and spent the night there. Joshua got up early the next morning, and the priests took up the ark of the Lord. The 7 priests carrying the 7 trumpets went forward, marching before the ark of the Lord and blowing their trumpets. The armed men went ahead of them, and the rear guard followed the ark of the Lord, while the trumpets kept sounding. So on the 2nd day they marched around the city once and returned to the camp. They did this for 6 days. On the 7th day they got up at the daybreak and marched around the city 7 times in the same manner, except that on this day, on that day, they circled the city 7 times. The 7th time around, when the priest sounded the trumpet blast, Joshua commanded the army, "Shout, for the Lord has given you the city. The city and all that is in it are to be devoted to the Lord. Only Rahab the prostitute and all who are with her in her house shall be spared, because she hid the spies we sent. But keep away from the devoted things, so that you will not bring about your own destruction by taking any of them. Otherwise, you will make the camp of Israel liable to destruction and bring trouble on it. All the silver and gold of the articles of bronze and iron are sacred to the Lord and must go into his treasury." When the trumpet sounded, the army shouted, and at the sound of the trumpet, when the man gave a loud shout, the walls collapsed. So everyone charged straight in, and they took the city. They devoted the city to the Lord and destroyed with the sword everything in it, men and women, young and old, cattle, sheep, and donkeys. Joshua said to the 2 men who had spied out the land, "Go into the prostitute's house and bring her out and all who belong to her." No. Okay, when I'm finished, you can come in. So everyone charged in accordance with your oath to her. So the young men who had done the spying went in and brought out Rahab, her father and mother, her brother and sister, and all who belonged to her. They brought out her entire family and put them in a place outside the camp of Israel. Then they burned the whole city and everything in it. But they put the silver and gold and the articles of bronze and iron into the treasury of the Lord's house. But Joshua spared Rahab the prostitute with her family and all who belonged to her, because she hid the men Joshua had sent as spies to Jericho, and she lived among the Israelites to this day. At that time, Joshua pronounced this solemn oath: "Cursed before the Lord is the one who undertakes to rebuild this city Jericho. At the cost of his firstborn son, he will lay its foundations. At the cost of his youngest, he will set up its gates." So the Lord was with Joshua, and his fame spread throughout the land. Achan, I'm going to say Achan, chapter 7. But the Israelites were unfaithful in regard to the devoted things. I bet you. I knew somebody was going to mess it up for everybody. Achan, son of Carmi, the son of Zimri, the son of Zerah of the tribe of Judah, took some of them. So the Lord's anger burned against Israel. Now Joshua sent men from Jericho to Ai, which is near Beth Aven, to the east of Bethel, and told them, "Go up and spy out the region." So the men went up and spied out Ai. No! Go! No, you are outside until I tell you to come in, because you don't know how to be quiet. When they returned to Joshua, they said, "Not all the army will have to go up against Ai. Send 2,000 or 3,000 men to take it, and do not weary the whole army, for only a few people live there." So about 3,000 went up, but they were routed by the men of Ai, who killed about 36 of them. They chased the Israelites from the city gate as far as the stone quarries and struck them down on the slopes. At this, the hearts of the people melted in fear and became like water. Then Joshua tore his clothes and fell face down to the ground before the ark of the Lord, remaining there till evening. The elders of Israel did the same thing and sprinkled dust on their heads. And Joshua said, "Alas, sovereign Lord, why did you ever bring this people across the Jordan to deliver us into the hands of the Amorites to destroy us? If only we had been content to stay on the other side of the Jordan. Pardon your servant, Lord. What can I say now that Israel has been routed by its enemies? The Canaanites and the other people of the country will hear about this, and they will surround us and wipe out our name from the earth. What then will you do for your own great name?" The Lord said to Joshua, "Stand up. What are you doing down on your face? Israel has sinned. They have violated my covenant, which I commanded them to keep. They have taken some of the devoted things. They have stolen. They have lied. They have put them in their own possessions. That is why the Israelites cannot stand against their enemies. They turned their backs and run because they have been made liable to destruction. I will not be with you anymore unless you destroy whatever among you is devoted to destruction." Ooh-wee. God plays 0 games. Go consecrate the people. Tell them, "Consecrate yourself in preparation for tomorrow. For this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. There are devoted things among you, Israel. You cannot stand against your enemies until you remove them. In the morning, present yourselves tribe by tribe. The tribe the Lord chooses shall come forward, clan by clan. The Lord chooses shall clan. I missed the word somewhere. Clan by clan, okay. The clan the Lord chooses shall come forward, family by family, and the family the Lord chooses shall come forward, man by man. Whoever is caught with the devoted things shall be destroyed by fire, along with all that belongs to him." Why ain't these people learned to stop playing with God? Yo, this is crazy. We ain't learned to stop playing with God in 2024, so I get it, but it was real back then. Like, God was really just opening up the earth and swallowing people back in the day. Like, God spanks people in 2024, but he was like, for real. Like, I wouldn't play with God. I'm just saying. Along with all belongs to him, he has violated the covenant of the Lord and has done an outrageous thing in Israel. Early the next morning, Joshua had Israel come forward by tribes and Judah was chosen. The clan of Judah came forward, and the Zerites were chosen. He had the clan of the Zerites come forward by families, and Zimri was chosen. Joshua had his family come forward man by man, and Achan, son of Carmi, the son of Zimri, the son of Zerah, of the tribe of Judah, was chosen. Woo! Then Joshua said to Achan, my son, give glory to the Lord, the God of Israel, and honor him. Tell me what you have done. Do not hide it from me. Achan replied, it is true. I have sinned against the Lord, the God of Israel. This is what I have done. When I saw him to plunder a beautiful robe from Babylonia, 200 shekels of silver and a bar of gold weighing 50 shekels, I coveted them and I took them. They are hidden in the ground inside my tent with the silver underneath. So Joshua sent messengers, and they ran to the tent, and there it was, hidden in his tent with the silver underneath. They took the things from the tent, brought them to Joshua and all the Israelites, and spread them out before the Lord. Then Joshua, together with all Israel, took Achan, son of Zerah, the silver, the robe, the gold bar, his sons and daughters, his cattle, donkeys, and sheep, his tent, and all that he had to the valley of Acre. Joshua said, why have you brought this trouble upon us? The Lord will bring trouble on you today. Then all Israel stoned him, and after that they had stoned the rest, they burned them. Over Achan they heaped up a large pile of rocks, which remains to this day. Then the Lord turned from his fierce anger. Therefore the place has been called the Valley of Acre ever since. Man, that was crazy. Ai destroyed. Chapter 8. Then the Lord said to Joshua, do not be afraid, do not be discouraged. Take the whole army with you and go up and attack Ai. For I have delivered, I don't know if it's called Ai, but it's an A and an I, so that's what I'm calling it. For I have delivered into your hands the king of Ai, his people, his city, and his land. You shall do to Ai and its kings as you did to Jericho and its king, except that you may carry off their plunder and livestock for yourself. Set an ambush behind the city. So Joshua and the whole army moved out to attack Ai. He chose 30,000 of his best fighting men and sent them out at night with their orders. Listen carefully. You are to set an ambush behind the city. Don't go very far from it. All of you on the alert. And I and all those with me will advance on the city, and when the men come out against us as they did before, we will flee from them. They will pursue us until we have lured them away from the city, for they will say, they are running away from us as they did before. So when we flee from them, you are to rise up from ambush and take the city. The Lord your God will give it into your hands. When you have taken the city, set it on fire. Do what the Lord has commanded. See to it. You have my orders. Then Joshua sent them off, and they went to the place of ambush and lay in wait between Bethel and Ai to the west of the Ai. But Joshua spent the night with the people. Early the next morning, Joshua mustered his army, and he and the leaders of the Israel marched before them to Ai. The entire force that was with him marched up and approached the city and arrived in front of it. They set up camp north of Ai with the valley between them and the city. Joshua had taken about 5,000 men and set them in ambush between Bethel and Ai to the west of the city. So the soldiers took up their positions with the main camp to the north of the city and the ambush to the west of it. That night Joshua went to the valley. When the king of Ai saw this, he and all the men of the city hurried out early in the morning to meet Israel in battle at a certain place overlooking the Arabah. But he did not know that an ambush had been set against him behind the city. Joshua and all Israel let themselves be driven back before them, and they fled toward the wilderness. All the men of Ai were called to pursue them, and they pursued Joshua and were lured away from the city. Not a man remained in Ai or Bethel who did not go after Israel. They left the city open and went in pursuit of Israel. Then the Lord said to Joshua, hold out towards Ai the javelin that is in your hand. and for into your hand I will deliver the city. So Joshua held out towards the city the javelin that was in his hand. As soon as he did this, the men in the ambush rose quickly from their position and rushed forward. They entered the city and captured it and quickly set it on fire. The men of Ai looked back and saw the smoke of the city rising up into the sky, but they had no chance to escape in any direction. The Israelites who had been fleeing towards the wilderness had turned back against their pursuers. For when Joshua and all Israel saw that the ambush had taken the city and the smoke was going up from it, they turned around and attacked the men of Ai. Those in the ambush also came out of the city against them, so that they were caught in the middle with Israelites on both sides. Israel cut them down, leaving them neither survivors nor fugitives. But they took the king of Ai alive and brought him to Joshua. When Israel had finished killing all the men of Ai in the fields and all the wilderness where they had chased them, and when every one of them had been put to the sword, all the Israelites returned to Ai and killed those who were in it. 12,000 men and women fell that day, all the people of Ai, for Joshua did not draw back the hand that held out his javelin until he had destroyed all who lived in Ai. But Israel did carry out themselves the livestock and plundered this city, as the Lord had instructed Joshua. So Joshua burned Ai and made it a permanent heap of ruins, a desolate place to this day. He impaled the body of the king of Ai on a pole and left it there until evening. At sunset, Joshua ordered them to take the body from the pole and throw it down at the entrance of the city gate, and they raised a large pile of rocks over it, where it remains to this day. Gosh, craziness. The covenant renewed at Mount Ebal. Then Joshua built on Mount Ebal an altar to the Lord, the God of Israel, as Moses, the servant of the Lord, had commanded the Israelites. He built it according to what is written in the book of the law of Moses, an altar of uncut stones on which no iron tool had been used. On it they offered to the Lord burnt offerings and sacrificed fellowship's offering. There, in the presence of the Israelites, Joshua wrote on stones a copy of the laws of Moses. All the Israelites with their elders, officials, and judges were standing on both sides of the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord, facing the Levitical priests who carried it. Both the foreigners living among them and the native-born were there. Half of the people stood in front of Mount Gerizim, and half of them in front of Mount Ebal, as Moses, the servant of the Lord, had formally commanded when he gave instructions to bless the people of Israel. Afterward, Joshua read all the words of the law, the blessings and the curses, just as it is written in the book of the law. There was not a word of all that Moses had commanded that Joshua did not read to the whole assembly of Israel, including the women and the children and the foreigners who lived among them. That was some good stuff, y'all. That was some good stuff. Tomorrow we'll read chapter 9, Gibeonite deceptions. Oh, Gibeonite, how come y'all ain't learned? Every generation, it's like back to back to back. People playing with God and they keep getting spanked, and I'm just like, yo, I'm gonna learn from your mistakes. Like, I'm not gonna play God, like, in real time. So I'm Lonnie Appleton. I'm a healthy family advocate. If you're not familiar with me, please get familiar with me. Definitely check out the content, follow. I repost all of my Bible studies on Lonnie, Lonee, Appleton, Appleton, live, Live, on YouTube, so you can catch all Bible studies. If you've missed any of this one, it'll eventually get put up. No problem, Candy. Thank you so much. I also have my other YouTube account where I post all of my content that's not going to be posted here because TikTok mutes my videos and, whatever. So that is As the Apple Turns. So definitely get familiar with me. I'm advocating for the healthy restoration of our families, doing the work and healing ourselves. You can support the community by donating to the Cash App, Lonnie Appleton. You can support the community by purchasing merch, LonnieLifestyle.com. I am a coach, a relationship, family, and life coach. So you can always check out my services as well as my mentorship and, podcasts, all the things. I do all the things, and everything's available for us to start collaborating and truly getting these messages out here of healing and restoration and truly aligning ourselves with our divinity. I am choosing this methodology, but there are multiple methodologies to heal yourself and to get into your God knowing. Thank you guys. It is now 1:05. I will be here. I don't believe that I work tomorrow, so I will be here tomorrow at noon Mountain Standard Time. So it is 1:05, so an hour and 5 minutes ago. I'm usually late, but I start getting ready at 12 to go live. But, I'm here. So always check your little bloop bloop on the top to see if I'm live. Enjoying Bible study. I read it. We have read from Genesis. We just finished Deuteronomy, and we just entered into Joshua. So you see that little line right there? I'm so proud of myself. Look at my little cover. Usually my cover look like that on my Bible. Look at my cover. I'm so proud of me. Yes, Lord, thank you. I will check you out more. And service. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you for your support, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a blessed day.